Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Brooks, and welcome back to another Empower Hour brought to you by Facing Brooks and the Empower Plant. I want to welcome you and get so excited about today's topic. It's February, and we are talking about relationships, but not just the usual relationships that you think about with the red wine and the red roses and that sort of thing. We are talking today about parenting LGBTQ plus children. This is coming up a lot. It's coming up on my personal radar. And I thought to myself, if I know this many people, I bet they would like some support. I wonder if they are supported, they feel supported. I want to talk about it. I want to bring some attention to it. I want to hear if my presumptions are correct, because obviously we all make assumptions and presumptions. I don't like to let those go unchecked. So I want to do that. And so I want to open up a dialogue and talk about that relationship today. And I brought with us today a wonderful guest. We've got Cheryl Stuart. She is an attorney. She's with the Hopping Law Firm. And in her attorney world, her attorney hat is one that she wears. And then she has another hat that she wears as an LGBTQ plus advocate, especially in the faith-based community. So welcome, Cheryl. Thank you for joining us today. Tell us
Thanks.
about yourself.
Glad to be here. I appreciate the invite, and I really appreciate you shining a light on these issues. I don't think we can talk enough about them because you know what? The more conversations we have, the more lives we save, and that's literally true.
That is so correct. When I think about the things that people struggle with, and then I layer COVID on top of it, and I thought, well, that can't help.
Nope.
Isolation, disconnection, that can't help. So I hear about these things more and more and more from my friends in my community. And I think to myself, I sure hope they feel warmth and love and support. And so thank you for everything you do. And thank you for being with us here today. I want to introduce our panel. Okay, we've got Kimmy Hogan back with us again today, my law partner. Thank you for coming again, Kimmy Hogan.
Yeah, hey y'all. Hope you're having a good afternoon.
The last time I was on a Zoom with Kimmy Hogan, we had a cacophony of children's voices in the background. She has her own theme.
My little 2-year-old climbing all over me.
Yeah, he had a lot. He wanted to be heard. Exactly. He wanted to own his space, and he wanted to be heard.
You got to work that mute button.
so he was yesterday. So welcome back. I'm glad you found just a minute to do something like this. And we appreciate your input today. We've got, again, Rose Caswick. Thank you for coming again, Rose. And thank you for your most important job, which is getting us our cocktail or mocktail for tonight. And first of all, welcome back. And second, what are we having? What are we drinking?
Yeah, thank you. Today we're having, it's a gin fizz in honor of Maya Angelou. It's got sherry in it, and apparently Maya Angelou makes it a habit to drink a glass of sherry in the morning. She gets up at 5 a.m. like Jimmy Facig and starts to work, and then before 11, she's in the sherry. So good for the creative process, I guess.
Hey, whatever works, sister. You can't complain about her productivity or her heart or energy. So if it's sherry, whatever your secret sauce is, get it, girls. So yeah, welcome back. Welcome back to the Empower Hour, where we want to do exactly that. We want to empower people. Cheryl, in the work that you do, what do you think is the greatest struggle for people? I mean, we could talk about LGBTQ plus issues all the day, but I wanted to at least lock it down to parenting. Because I don't want to suggest one show would cover, any issue, but about the parenting part of it, say more about that and maybe just tell us your story.
Well, I think the parenting part is, there's some commonalities I think I've seen over time, and then every journey is different. So don't assume any two journeys are identical, first and foremost. But I think initially, many times when a child comes out to a parent, sometimes it depends on how old that child is. If the child is 6 or 7, or the child is in 14, 15, or the child is 25, or the child is, I know a guy who came out at age 70. Yeah. Literally. So it depends on what those dynamics are. You'd be surprised how many times parents say, you know what, I always knew. And maybe the parent didn't vocalize it, didn't explain it, but the parents many times, and especially grandparents, tend to be even more attuned in many cases. They knew. And that's a good thing. That usually makes it a little bit easier, right, for the child. But then there are those circumstances where parents are completely caught off guard and had no idea. And frankly, those cases where they're completely confused. What does this mean? Oh my goodness, I don't know. I don't understand. So we have all of those dynamics at play. When my daughter came out, and my daughter's now in her late 20s, to us, my husband and I had both been very active already in LGBT issues in work through our church and then out into the community. And I was serving on boards and we were speaking on these issues and training and learning and going to workshops and things. And so when she finally came out, particularly, she knew she was safe.
Yeah.
She knew she would be loved. So there was no drama, I would say, about that because of the environment that was already created. And let me say, I started down this path long before I had any idea what her sexual orientation might be.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And someone has asked me, well, do you think you made her gay?
Oh,
right?
Lord.
Well, you get all kinds of questions in this world, and you have to, I don't try to, people have a question, I want to take their question at face value, right?
That's big of you. I would have said, do you think helping the homeless makes them not have a home? I mean, that's crazy.
Well, a lot of times that question comes from a place of people who don't understand that this isn't a choice. This is the whole dynamic of lifestyle choice. This is not a lifestyle choice. This is who someone is intrinsically. People are made that way. And so you have to get through that piece of it. Once you accept that as a notion, then of course the answer is, well, no, I didn't make her gay. She came out as gay in that context.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. And that's who they are. But you have all kinds of other stigma and social stigma depending on where people are on their journey and understanding.
That's very interesting. When I was getting my master's in social work, and you had to, you pick things you want to research. I always researched, homosexuality, homosexual behavior, prevalence, whether it was more or less than we were told based on what we the bigger forces want us to believe about it, that sort of thing. I was questioning it. And to me, I question choice. Because my personal opinion is, so what if it is your choice? I don't believe you're born as, I believe it's a choice. I believe everybody is empowered to make the choices that they make. And I know many people, I have many friends who, have been in a same-sex relationship, different sex relationship. And I respect their autonomy and their choice, because to me, if you are in a relationship with someone who's of age, has their faculties, can make informed, decisions, and it's just one of them or whatever is right for you. If you're not hurting other people, subjugating people, I just don't really think it's anybody else's business. And I don't think you need to justify your behavior by saying, I was born this way, or my mom made me this way, or whatever. I think if we could just get to the point where we just respected individual choice, we would be a better society for it. So that's kind of my personal position on choice. Does anybody have another perspective on that they would like to share?
Well, my perspective on kids, I love how Cheryl said a lot of times when kids come out, or young adults, the parents or grandparents say, well, I always knew that. And now that I have two of my own children, I can see my little boys had their personalities from the jump.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're just forces of nature, and they're very much who they are. And I don't know how that translates into sexuality because my kids are little, but
Yeah.
I can say, look, I know my kids were born with these kind of personalities. And so I could definitely see that people are born with sexual preferences, and it's just what they're drawn to or who they're drawn to. And, so that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's manifested and sometimes it's just kind of nebulous. I mean, I will tell you this with my own daughter, and I don't think she would give me any grief about it, sharing this. And if she does, she knows a lot of lawyers. She can. But when she was little, I raised her with my two stepdaughters. They're very close in age. And my two stepdaughters were always very girly. They would wear their Belle costume to Walmart. They wanted to make up, dress up, or whatever. And sometimes Whitney was on board with that. And sometimes she was like, no, I want to be a cowboy today, or I want to be Elmo. I know you took 3 days off work and slaved over this costume you made with your own hands, but I just want to be Elmo. And I was always very much like, cool, do what your thing is. And I never really was thinking about her sexuality so much as I was thinking, man, this kid's going to be a handful.
Yeah.
She is her own person, you know, and I think sometimes it's the parents' anxiety of, please be easy, please be easy, you
Right.
know, because you got, especially for the mothers, you got so many things going on to take care of a kid. You just want them to be so cookie cutter. You want them to be easy, and that's not their job.
Well, I think every parent comes when anything, you learn anything about your child, your first instinct is, are they going to be okay? Right? No matter what.
Are they normal?
Are they going to be okay? And we worry about our children no matter what. We worry, oh my goodness, my child's going to be unusually short.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my child's going to be unusually tall. Oh my goodness, my child doesn't read well. I mean, you have no matter what manifests in your child,
yeah,
always run through that little checklist in your head. And so when a child comes up to you this day, you say, of course, one of the instincts of a parent is to say, should I be afraid here? Right? Am I afraid? What does this mean for my child?
And how do I protect?
So that, right, how do I protect? And if that's actually not a bad instinct, right? That's better than a rejection, which too many kids face, way too many kids face, right? But we'll get to that later. But the question is, so you come, that's an honest emotion of a parent. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what you feel. But it's a matter of, and I would say this over and over, your child comes out, listen, the 2 ears, 1 mouth rule applies. Listen twice as much as you speak.
That's right.
Right. And do not, and my other strong piece of advice would, do not be dismissive. Do not say, oh, it's just a phase. Oh, you're going to get over this. Oh, this is, how do you really, I'm out. Just listen and accept them for who they are, because they need to hear that word, because if they are at all questioning or struggling, and many kids do, what they need to hear is support for the struggle. What they 100%. Need to hear is is listening, and an open mind, and that you're going to be there no matter what that journey looks like. And that, as a parent, is the best thing you can do to protect your child.
Right.
The biggest reason LGBTQ kids, 40% of whom have contemplated suicide in the last year, studies show by the Trevor Project in particular, is a lack of parental support. That's one of the biggest reasons, right? They don't feel that. So the best thing you can do is to not overreact, but simply listen. And remember, your child is a person. It's the same person your child was the day before. It's people over definitions, people over labels. Yeah. It's a person. Yeah. This is a human being who is simply sharing something very intimate with you. Be glad they are willing to do that and listen to you.
Yeah, all your dreams for your children, they still can come true. You're still going to, you dream about, I want to do her hair the day of her wedding. So what? Do it.
Well, I'll tell you about that.
That's a big thing for parents. I had to talk to a friend of mine. There's a couple of things that I've heard from my friends since I said I wanted to talk about this topic. One of them is, this is going around. The other girls are doing this. It's a thing they're doing right now. The 13, 14, 15, they're doing it. They're exploring it. To them, it's their way of showing power. I'm just really disrupting your thoughts of me. I'm going to go extreme with it. I'm just going to, raise hell, knock the door down. And I don't think it's going to stick. But then I think to your point, are you really worried about how it's going to affect you? Are you worried about supporting this child through this journey? And they may decide, is it for you? They may go back and forth. So what? Stop trying to put people in a box. And then I had another friend of mine, and she's like, I know, what I did. I gave birth to this, beautiful little girl, and I had dreams too. I wasn't counting on this. There's a lot of thoughts behind that, and you can be really dismissive. Like, no one's, has a kid just to have the perfect kid. You take what you get. You love your children, and no matter what. But then wait a minute though. I mean, how does it affect the parents? Because I think about, do parents worry about judgment from other parents? Because let me tell you, when my kid was 4 years old, there was nothing more important than that damn birthday party.
Right?
This is way before Pinterest and John Gandy got involved. I mean, this was OG. And I mean, I went to one party, and this kid, there was like like a foot of shredded pink paper in the yard. You had to trowel through to get to the pony by the bouncy tent. I mean, it was just so much pressure. And then now, oh my God, some of the things that I see at these kids' parties, and I'm thinking to myself, imagine parents who are so invested in that. It's very easy to do. Let's be honest. It's very easy to get into that, one-upmanship and making your child's life the best, childhood they could ever imagine. Every day's Disney World. And then thinking, oh, wow, how are my friends going to think about me? What are they going to freak about me if my child comes out? And it's not, you can sit there and judge it all day long, but let's be honest, it happens. Have you heard from parents struggling with that, like their status issue?
Yes, mostly in the context of what did I do wrong? Or what did you do? How did you get here? Yeah. Oh yeah. Not to me. People don't say that to me because people don't say that stuff to me. But parents, it's interesting. It's another form of bullying. You think your kids are bullied? Parents get bullied too, or can get bullied in this context, right? So
it's a deficiency.
That's a whole topic, right? In and of itself, the issue of being bullied because you're gay or because you are perceived to be gay. That's another big thing. And so we have to watch for that and the reason to be supportive of the kids, it's not even kids who are just gay, it's kids who are sometimes perceived to be, whether they are or not, who also get bullied in school.
Yeah.
But the parental judgment can come in, but again, you have to be true to yourself and your child's journey. Your first loyalty, at least parents that I tend to talk to, when you get them to face it for real, it's who is your first loyalty to? It's to your child.
100%.
And that isn't always true. There are parents who reject their children. There are many parents who reject their children on one or the other. And that's why you have a high percentage of kids in homeless shelters are LGBTQ.
Right.
And so that's,
you see that in the sex trafficking arena.
Yep. And that's the reason they have been rejected at home many times. And again, not every situation is different. So that's the more you can do to honor the journey, and even when it's hard, parenting's hard. Come on, parenting's hard. I don't care what. It's hard.
On your best damn day.
On your best day, it's a hard journey. But if you strip it all away and say, my goal is to love and support my child in whatever that child is facing, and be the best support system I can be. They're going to have to make their own mistakes and learn their own lessons and navigate their own waters. The other thing you can do as a parent, though, that I think is important, and I think this is harder, it's to call out the bad behavior around them. So when you're at the dinner table, or when you're at the family Christmas, and Uncle Mert or whoever says an off color or a homophobic joke, right? To call it out, at least, right? To say something. You know what? That's not okay here. I don't appreciate that. You don't have to say why.
Cool. Not cool.
But how you do that, and the fact that you do that, your children are watching.
Right.
They are watching you, and that I'll go further. Every child you come in contact with is watching you.
Right.
When you are the parent, the carpool parent, or when you are the team mom, chaperone, or the room mom,
and volunteer mom,
and the kids are making jokes about things. The kids kids can be cruel, right?
Stop it. Right.
You have to stop. That's not okay. Do you know, why did you say that? I mean, you need to call that behavior out. Your children will watch you and internalize that. And that's a level of support that resonates very deeply.
It is. It's implicit support of it. And I've always said this. I posted this meme. It just came out in my memories on Facebook about, if your parents rejected you because of your, status, whatever, I'm your mom now, take your vegetables, go to bed early, eat something, and I mean that. I mean it. Whenever I think of anybody who's been rejected by a parent, my heart just explodes. I'm just like, I will love you. Come to me. But I love that you are a good support for so many people who are struggling with this. And it shouldn't be a struggle. I mean, parenting is a struggle, but this shouldn't be an extra layer of it. Rose,
right, but there's a lot of hate in this world, and parent society is struggling. We still continue. We've made a lot of progress. Let's not dismiss that.
Let's keep it up.
I'm reading the story in today's Daytona Beach News, yesterday's Daytona Beach News Journal, about a guy in Orlando who had a whole journal about how much he hated same-sex, hated LGBT people, and he went to a house of two people. Not clear whether he knew them, and cut the power to their house and then attacked.
Wow.
Okay.
I got to tell you, my mental health background makes me think he's been same-sex molested, or he has
Well,
same-sex impulses, and he's feeling so bad about it himself that his anger is manifesting in hatred of people who he feels, he identifies with and doesn't want to. But
and
that's because we as a society are shaming that behavior. It shouldn't be a bad thing to be called gay if gay is great. For how many years did you hear, oh, that's so gay? You know what else is gay? This is gay. And you
and
just went
I
on with it. You just went on with it. Just like it used to be cool to make fun of fat people. There's the last things it's okay to be made fun about. But the point is this, can we just stop being assholes? Because that'll take care of a lot of it. I want to hear from Rose. Rose, I want to hear if you want to contribute anything about what we talked about so far. And then also, if you have any questions you want to ask our guests, particularly about, being a parent of someone who identifies LGBTQ.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my experience, I'm not a parent, and I don't know a lot of parents of older children, like people in my age, or, they have toddlers and younger children. But, I've seen it from the other side, friends who have come out or whatever and had struggles with their parents. So I think that's luckily mostly supportive in my circle, but there's just ways of dismissing sort of that parents do, even if it's not like you're thrown out of the house, we don't recognize you. But, especially friends who are trans, misgendering them. It's just like, it's not done intentionally to hurt, I don't think, in most cases, but it's not taking the time to honor someone's identity. Like, I've told you this thing about me, the least you could do is use my pronouns, and just like not even bothering to even think about it. It's like, what? You're my child, you're my daughter, you're the same as you've always been. I'm not going to change the way I refer to you. And that can be, I think, pretty hurtful, whether the parent intends it to be or not. So I guess my question would be, in those situations where a family member, a parent, somebody is either unsupportive or just casually, I guess, unsupportive, do you have thoughts on the best way to support the child? Like, obviously I will call them by their chosen name and their pronouns and those types of things, but without, trying to poke at their parents and like, I'm doing it right, why can't you get it right, mom and dad? But do you have any advice about that?
Great question.
Well, I mean, parents, many LGBTQ kids have to, they know at some level they're giving their parents a little space, little time to grow into the issue and to understand what that means and why pronouns matter. Pronouns do matter. Pronouns are about respect. That's all. It's simple, very simple. But it can be hard. I like to think about families of blood and families of choice, right? And what many people do, and what many LGBTQ people do who cannot stay connected with their families for whatever reason, tend to find themselves creating families of choice that are deep and profound and wonderful. And to the extent you, Rose, are an ally and a friend and can be part of that support network, that people get support from other places, right?
I 100% agree.
People have been rejected. Kids are rejected for other reasons too. Let's say that, right? It's sad as that is, but that doesn't mean that they cannot form other kinds of bonds and other sorts of families. And so, my advice to the child who's navigating I'll say an awkward time at home, is to navigate it, but find those sources of support. There are helplines, there are resources, there are, and to the extent you're friends, friends matter. Friends matter. Being there, there are now not just crisis hotlines, there are crisis chat lines, there are crisis text lines. If you think people are getting becoming very depressed over their situation or getting in trouble, so knowing those things and being able to spot that, because the parents may not spot it, but you as a friend can. So, my advice to the person who's the child who's navigating that is to search out those other things into their friends to be supportive in that way.
Yeah. I totally see that. And I totally agree with it. I wanted to share some things. Like I told you all, I had some people who wanted to be on the show and be heard, but they just, they're like, it's public. But these are important things. Like one of them said that they came out to a parent, and the parent loves them so much. And they're like, oh, I can't believe you struggled with this so long. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Or why, whatever. And this person said, do you really think I didn't pick up on all the slurs and the insults and the, talking about gay people? Well, he's lighting the loafers, he goes, do you think I missed that my whole life? I didn't feel comfortable. I know you love me up to a certain point, but I didn't know if you loved that part of me. And I thought, oh my God, if my child said that to me, I'd be heartbroken. But then I thought my daughter could say that to me about a lot of things. Wondering if I would love her if I knew this about her. So my first thing always is why does this have to be a shame thing? Why does this have to be something I have to love you in spite of? Why can't I celebrate it? So I hate the thought that it's some sort of an affliction we've got to work together to overcome. Like you've got a cancer of character. I don't like that. No. But yeah, I think people don't realize that when you go along with the main, you're sending out these little signals. But here's the thing, it's not insurmountable. The parent can say, you know what? I need to own that. I need to own that. I was just thinking I was immune. This didn't involve me. And I was doing what I knew, and I was doing what was tolerated and seemed okay at the time. I didn't get a lot of negative pushback. I wish I would have examined my behavior. I wish I would have thought about it this way. Can you forgive me? Can we start again? Can we move on? What do you see parents, who are able to do that? We talk about parents who reject. Have you seen parents who are able to evolve and grow?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's certainly possible. And it takes sometimes it takes some time, and it takes support. It takes support for the parents. And that's why organizations that are supportive, like PFLAG, which is the acronym for Parents, Friends, and Families of Lesbians and Gays, but now they just go by PFLAG, which is a national organization that was set up in the early 70s, I think, by a woman and her son, who was in a parade in New York City, and all these people had been that she knew had been rejected. She was giving out hugs as a mom, and she realized we have to have an organization here for parents to get together, for allies and families to get together to help support one another and learn how best to support our kids. So that's an organization, and their website has tremendous resources, videos, trainings, all kinds of things, 400 chapters in the country. They're a wonderful resource for families to grow in just the way you're talking about, how to own it, how to say, okay, and I'm sorry, and I really didn't realize it, but I'm going to do, and I'm going to do better, and help me when I'm not. And, I'm going to make more mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes as a parent, as I live into this too. And please know I'm not doing it from a point of hurt. I'm doing it because I make a mistake. So please let me know, and let's have an honest conversation. And usually that's, if there's a good, hug involved, that helps that conversation.
That's a brave thing to do.
It is.
It seems like it should be instinctual, and you want it to be, and you always think you're going to be that parent that your kid could come to for anything. But there's always, there's something.
And there's the parents too who are pushed by their churches, and I don't want to go off into theology.
I do want to get into the faith-based, the pushback, and how you have helped people address it. I do want to ask this though: do you know of many cases where a parent brings it up, where the parent says, "Do you have something you want to say?" Do you want to just get this out on the table? I mean, come on.
I don't know of many, and I think that's a delicate thing to do. I don't know that I can't say it's wrong, because at some point, depending on the relationship and depending on the way that's asked, you're giving permission for a conversation that the child may not know that it's okay to have. And if you're doing it in that way and it's received in that way, that's a good thing. If the child isn't ready or is struggling or isn't sure, doesn't know, it could be, you may just get the silence.
It could be a big setback.
You're at least going to get the silent wall, right? And in that, but yes, you can say, I've noticed that, something. I think the way to sometimes enter into that conversation is, I've noticed this. I think that's cool that you like that. I've noticed you playing with trucks or whatever. I'm not. That's an example, but
I get what you're saying. That's very.
Yes, I noticed that, and I think that's pretty cool. I think you should be able to do whatever you want to do, and you are sending those messages that you're going to be supportive of your child, no matter what the circumstance.
100%. I want to go to a couple of questions, and forgive my technology,
Okay.
and eloquence. So we have a question that says, why do we always have to put a label on everyone?
That's right.
100%.
shouldn't.
Why do I have to fit in a box so you are comfortable? It is not my obligation to make other people comfortable with me. I did not accept that. I didn't sign a contract. I got no consideration for it. All my lawyers know I'm talking language, but no, I got nothing for it. I never agreed to make you comfortable with my existence.
So I'm going to give you two sides to that issue, because
Please.
I'm a lawyer and I talk on both
Yeah.
sides, right? Because that's what I do. The first is, it's absolutely right. And it's my mantra, if I have one, is people over definitions, people over labels, human beings over labels. Always default to the human being in front of you. This is a human being in front of you. So the more we get out of those labels, get away from worrying about those kind of labels anyway, the better off we will be as a society.
Yeah.
That said, at this point in society's evolution, shall we say, and particularly I'm going to say this as to faith communities. I get the question all the time, why do we have to say, like our congregation says, we welcome and affirm all people of all sexual orientations and gender identities and expressions and their friends and families. We are welcoming all them. Why do we have to say that explicitly?
It matters.
And the answer is, too many churches say everyone is welcome, but really not everyone. And so the only way, because churches in particular have inflicted a whole host of harm on the LGBTQ community.
They sure have.
The way that the LGBT community, Christians in particular, but of all religions, I will say, it's not limited to Christians. The way you feel safe in entering into one of those communities is to see that language specifically, because, you've at least said those words, you've talked about those things, and that's chances are a much safer place to be, to come back and explain, maybe they will let me. Can I teach Sunday school? Can I be a lector? Can I do these? And so the reason to name it specifically is to be intentional about your welcome and intentional about the fact that you all really does mean all.
Yeah, because it's kind of a lazy thing. It's like all lives matter. Well,
yeah, exactly.
Of course they do. I'm not saying you're a jerk and you don't care about life, but I'm saying, some people are at greater risk than other people, and let's maybe give them a little attention, make them know that we love them. I mean, why is that offensive? Why does that have to get everybody's backs
Well,
up?
it's the other side of a box. I don't want to put anybody in a box, but I want to acknowledge and lift up who they are, because I know that they haven't always been that way. And maybe we get to the point where that isn't needed, but it won't be in my lifetime.
I don't know. Kimmy, you have any thoughts you want to weigh in here before we go on to something else?
Yes, definitely.
Please.
So it's really important to me. I'm raising 2 little boys, that I raise them in a space where they feel comfortable being who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very tuned into, and have always been really tuned into, this idea that I don't want to be heteronormative. I don't want to assume that my children are their assigned gender at birth. I don't want to assume that they are heterosexual or homosexual. I just want to create a space where they know that I'm accepting of whoever they are. And so I always think about things that I can do to create that. And so I wanted to talk about what I'm doing and hear from you, Cheryl, because you're really active in this community, about things you think I should be doing so that I can make this inclusive space for my boys. Things that I do is I have books that show different types of relationships, right?
Wonderful.
I've got books that have interracial couples, that have homosexual couples, heterosexual couples, right? So that it's not the other, right? This is just part of life. This is part of people in our lives and people that we love. And this is totally okay and normal and natural.
This is what makes it so interesting to be alive. Don't you just love diversity? That's exactly how I would frame it. It's not, and I always hated the word tolerance.
Yes.
Because it suggested somebody was in a superior position and got to decide who they would tolerate.
Yeah.
It's like, don't tolerate me. I don't tolerate you. Who are you?
Is all.
I hate that word tolerance. So I would rather replace it with what I think Kimmy's describing, which is inclusivity.
Yeah, exactly. This is just normal. This is part of life. I also find myself raging against these gender norms that my kids come home with. I mean, I've got a 4-year-old who says, I can't like pink because it's a girl color, and I
girl is bad
because that's girly. And so, I very nicely say, you can like pink. There's not because you're a boy.
That's the
I mean,
power color.
yes. But daddy used to have long hair, but and it's not, I don't know that anyone's doing it intentionally, but it's just that's in our society. And so I'm already having to correct it.
We talked about that today. That came up on something in the EmPower plan or the EmPower. I was just like, what was it? Rose, you posted it. That statistic about
Yeah,
it takes girls who graduate high school with A's to perform at the same level as a failing below mediocre dude. What the hell? What are your thoughts on what Kimmy just said?
I think that's awesome. Oh, I thought you were going to be, sorry. Go ahead, Rose.
No, it's not. It's terrible. You got to be a girl who identifies as an A student.
No. I
to
think
do
I
as
think
well as a boy who's an F.
no, not what Rose said. What Kimmy said. Sorry, Rose.
Kimmy's always everything.
Yeah, that
Rose,
study
get in here, Rose.
that I posted was high achieving women are only as achieving as low achieving men. And that article, if you read it, it said it got even worse when it came to parents, because then obviously, the gender gaps that we've been talking about, and things that women have to do, dropping out of the workforce and taking time off to raise children, bear children, whatever, affects them more. And so the gap just widens when people become parents. But yeah, I would think what Kimmy was talking about is very important. I know a lot of parents in our sort of generation who are trying to be a lot more, gender neutral. And obviously you can't raise kids in a bubble. They're not, little gray aliens, but you can, not reinforce those norms as much as possible, bring in a lot of diverse, not just books, like you were saying, that show actual, types of family structures and stuff, but, sewing kits for boys, kitchen sets for boys, dolls for boys, and the opposite. Just expose them to different things, and you never know what they're going to hit on until, society beats it out of them. But
right. It's like I said in the book, it's like, don't let there be, I call it sexism in the home, but just gender normative roles in the home. How many times do we say, well, let's wait till daddy gets home to do the hard stuff? Let daddy help you with your math. Let daddy do the science fair project with you. Let daddy build the rocket with you. I will bake the cookies with you, and you and I will put the gingerbread house together. I mean, you're really perpetuating these things just because they're so comfortable to you. It's just easy. It's just, that's his, he's performing in his expectations. I'm performing in my expectations. We're doing this, but what you're doing is perpetuating this image that tells your kids, stay in your lane. Hey, little girl, sucks to be you lost the birth lotto. You're going to be down here. You may be an exceptional down here, but you're always down here. Yeah. And I hate that. I want to get yourself, to another.
You're teaching your children.
I want to respond to one more thing really quickly.
Please do, because I want to look at some of the questions coming in. Go ahead.
Okay, Kimmy, I want to say two other things for you as just unsolicited advice. But one, you're going to have to get ahead of the game on books in the context of the books that your kids get in school. And I mean, as early as preschool and kindergarten. And I can tell you the story about Scholastic Book Fair. And I picked up the book on firefighters, and it was all men. And I grabbed it and I went to the school and I said, you got to get this off the shelf. This is ridiculous. And I wrote the Scholastic books and said, are you guys out of your minds? And, whatever. So you're going to have to continue to monitor all that. And the other thing to do is monitor the cartoons, but more importantly, the video games. And watch what messages are being sent, both LGBT stuff as well as gender and race issues in the video games that those kids are exposed to, because they're going to be, right?
Especially with boys, because I mean, I always had girls, but I understand video games are a really, really huge part of boys' lives, starting really, really early. And that's when they are walled off from you. You are not listening to what's in their earphones. You're not seeing what's in their screen. And they're getting bombarded with messages that are just wallpaper now. They're norm. They would never think to challenge them. Think of this. I love John Travolta, love him. But I got the opportunity to watch some of his older movies. Like I watched Grease and I watched Saturday Night Fever. My hair almost fell out. Those are some terribly misogynistic, sexist, awful movies, and in the day, oh my God, I dressed like damn Olivia Newton-John. I wanted to be her, just everything. And I'm like, because I thought that was the best role for a girl. You know, it's the best play to be. Oh, the pretty girl that the most handsome guy gets. That's not the pinnacle, but that was reinforced with me every day. You get it through your entertainment, you know,
Yes.
the communication, whatever. And moms and women and sisters and aunts, stop perpetuating that. You know, stop just letting it be background noise. Stop acting like it's something we just roll our eyes out. Like you said, whenever somebody says something, I call it gentle correction.
Right.
You don't have to
Scream and holler
by their neck, even though it's appropriate and you'd be completely justified in doing it. Resist the urge. Find a gentle way to say, you know, when you do that, when you say that, it makes me feel this way. Or when you do that, I wonder if you realize the effect that it has. I would just like you to consider maybe doing it differently. It's
Precisely.
but I would just love for you to consider it this way. Will you do that for me? Hardly anybody tells you to go screw yourself when you approach them like that.
Exactly.
Here's our other question.
Uh-oh.
Okay, everybody's a lawyer, yay. Is there any legal recourse for a transgender teen whose parents will not allow them to express their gender preference? First of all, this lawyer does not know.
This
Any
lawyer,
other lawyer want to bite on that?
this lawyer doesn't practice in the area specifically, but I would refer that questionnaire to Equality Florida. Has the pulse on all, and they're local. I mean, there's an Equality Florida office is here. There is one here. I go to their website, may have some help, but I would call them and I would ask them, or ask them who can answer that question for them. I can't. As a minor, there's probably not as much to in them. Yeah. That the child can do, but I'm not going to jump, say that. But I would refer you to Equality Florida. They do great work. They're a great advocacy group. They do wonderful things for the LGBTQ community and in a grassroots level of lobbying and organizing and advocacy. And they'll probably have their hands on the pulse.
As a lawyer, though, I know Kimmy and Rose, you probably your wheels are turning. Cheryl, yours too. Mm-hmm. I could think of so many legal issues that could come from this.
Oh, yeah.
Is it abuse that I'm not allowed to be myself? Is that a basis for emancipation? Is that a basis for emancipation and adoption or fostering? I think it's the Pediatric Association and the American Psychological Association have all come out and said, I may be using the term wrong, conversion therapy.
Yeah, it's bad, really bad.
They said, no, unethical.
Right.
You do it, you're not a member of our organizations. But, there's a lot of people don't realize this. I'm a social worker. People don't realize this. Our social work in America was born out of animal abuse. Americans cared more about animals than they did about kids, because how you treated your wife and your kids was considered a very American property right. Hey, don't tell me how to raise my wife. Don't tell me how to raise my children. Don't tell me how to, but we used to care about animals. We're like, oh, you really shouldn't beat the hell out of a dog. And so it actually, in the Jewish culture, actually really got behind it. But anyway, social work and caring about children, child protection, all that kind of grew out of a really weird way. You would think we would care so much more about protecting our children than animals. Not that there's anything wrong with animals. I love them, but they're not children. So it's very interesting how much we will let people hurt their children in this country before we step up and defend them.
And this gets complicated because there's sometimes a religious component that's thrown into that makes it even more difficult to challenge. And I don't want to go lost down that rabbit hole, but that whole issue of, well, it's my right, and as a parent, and it's against my religion, and no, I'm going to send this child to conversion therapy or reparative therapy, and there are people in this town who practice it. And so, that's part of this equation. I'm not saying that's what's happening in this case. I don't know anything what the person's referring to, but in terms of true legal rights, what the current state of the law is on that, I would.
I don't know the answer to that, but that's a good resource. Well, before we close, I want to come around and ask you about resources, but let me just do this. Let me see from Kimmy and from Rose, if you have any other questions or comments you would like to make. And then I do want to close, Cheryl, with you giving us some resources. And I do want you to share with us a little bit more right now about what you do in the faith-based community, why that's your passion, even before, your daughter decided that she wanted to share, a personal aspect of her life publicly. So what got you turned on to that, and what are you doing?
Okay. it all started, I mean, it really goes back to the lines are like this. I grew up out in Detroit in the 60s. And I remember when the first African-American came into my elementary school, and he was the only one, and he had a really tough time. And I remember going home to my mom and saying, you know, there's something not right about why he's treated that way just because of who he is. And my mother said to me, you're right. Now, what are you going to do about it? Mm. And then I heard all the no's, right? No, you can't play the drums, you're a girl. No, you can't get a varsity letter because you're a girl. No, you can't have gym time because you're a girl. All those no's. And again, the message was, you're right. And so what are you going to do about it? Right? So now I come into this, fast forward, you know, a bunch of years in this context, and my congregation is dealing with the issue of the full inclusion, support, and celebration of LGBTQ people in all aspects of the life of the church, including pastors.
Right.
For me, it was the same thing. Why does it make any? The theology for me is easy. I'm not a biblical literalist. I don't believe every word is written as precisely said. I think there's contextual reasons to read the Bible. I can get through, I mean, the theology issues I'm very comfortable with. But the even more fundamental human issue is, well, why would we treat this person differently because of who they are? And the question was, well, then what are you going to do about it? Because it has always been the way I have seen this. For me, it was the civil rights issue of my time. I think civil rights and advocacy issues, the LGBT issue in my time here on this earth, having lived through some of the others, which are not over, obviously, but again, it's the one presented in front of me in this moment. So I started working through the church and working with faith communities to help them understand and unpack their theology, and help to be a voice of saying, no, God does love you just the way you are. You are fearfully and wonderfully made just as you are. And yes, that includes trans people, and why that is the case. And so working with faith communities and helping them to wrestle with that, because sometimes you're undoing a lot of things. I was given various leadership roles in various settings, and I decided to use that platform in that way. It's what, you know, God put in front of me. And so I just walked. I kept walking. So that I work with pastors and congregations and other things as we go, trying to help them navigate these issues.
Yeah, I really, really am impressed by your passion and your mission. I mean, you didn't have to do that. There's a lot of callings that deserve attention. So I love it. You know, God doesn't, in my opinion, have a spreadsheet where he's got to have so many gays, so many straights, so many whites. I mean, you know what I mean? It just seems very unchristian and unreligious, ungodlike to say, oh, but you like that person. That's how you love. I'm going to have to, you know, I've got too many on that list already. No, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous the things that people.
Well, it's deeply based, and it comes, you know, in a faith community. Different faith traditions have it come from different places, but it's very deeply based. And I try to meet people where they are in their journey of faith journey to help them understand how we got there, how they got there, and what their faith is speaking to them. There's a great video. It's made a number of years ago called "For the Bible Tells Me So," and it's about 4 families, including some who lost their children. Adult or teenage children to suicide. Mm-hmm. And they did it because of church. I mean, not all of them, but they did it based on their religion. And they simply had the epiphany that said, that isn't the answer. That could not have been the answer, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's a wonderful video if you get your hands on it. It's a little bit dated now. Dick Gephardt from Missouri, former senator, I think, is in there as his family story. So there's some, if I remember that right, there's some great resources out there. That's an old one, but that's awesome. Faith community.
Yeah, I want to go one more time to Rose and Kimmy, see if you have any questions, comments, and then we'll end, Cheryl, with you giving us some more resources, if you don't mind. Kimmy, sure. Let's start with you.
Cheryl, thank you for the tips about the books and the video games. I appreciate that. One thing I'm trying to do too is to watch television around my boys, or movies that are LGBTQ inclusive, right? So that they can see me reacting to those relationships as normal and positive. I love finding movies where it's just a part of where the couple, their sexuality is not the focus of the movie. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just a fact of their life. It's just one percentage part of what they're living with. And so, you know, I'm trying to do that as well. Any other tips that you have for me?
You said TV and movies. There's a lot of work being done in media representation in that, and yeah, stay close to that. Stay real close to that with your kids, because you're going to lose control over what they see and do really quickly. So the more that you can impart with them, that's good. Watch their peer groups, and again, that's the other thing. Be with them, be around their peers, so that you can also help call out behavior and deal with, in particular, bullying as they get older. So be with their peers.
Yeah. I did that when my daughter was growing up. I would always, kind of just casually be listening when I'm driving them to a place or taking them somewhere. And when they would spill over into any of those little things, I'm like, that's not cool. Maybe think about it this way or whatever. You don't have to be like, no, this is wrong. You've got to be very, just very, you gotta bring them into your fold, make them trust you, make sure they know that they're safe with you. And then just gently, I call them gentle. Because it's funny, everybody's on this thing other than you, Cheryl, thinks Dana's gentle when? That's not her MO. But no, I can be. And sometimes, and especially with children, you just need to take those little nudgy opportunities to say, what about how he would feel? How would you feel if you were like him? Teach empathy. I think if the world had an empathy lesson, if everybody had to go to 3 months of intense empathy training, we would be all better for it. Rose, what are your final thoughts today?
Yeah, I was thinking about, and Cheryl talked a little bit about resources earlier, like suicide prevention hotlines and texting things and stuff like that. I was thinking about how COVID is probably affecting some of that, especially with LGBT youth, if their parents are homophobic or if they're just not out and they're not sure. And now they're stuck at home with them all the time. They can't get away to school or to go out on the weekends with their friends or whatever, either to express themselves outside the home where it's safer, or just to get away from that sort of pall over their lives. I don't know if you have any insight on whether there's been an uptick in that problem since COVID, and what are some of the resources, not just for suicide prevention per se, but finding communities.
Depression, mood, just feeling the anxiety, the overwhelming anxiety they must feel. That's an excellent question.
I have not seen studies done yet. It's probably a little early for real studies with any sound basis in terms of how much COVID has impacted that, but it's for all the reasons you said, it's obvious. It's going to have had an impact. The question is, how will it be quantified? And when does this end, and in what way that we can, the pandemic, such that we can get out from under it. There are a lot of communities out there, Facebook and Instagram, and all of those do have some supportive communities. Obviously, everybody has to be careful of all those things, but there are other ways to create communities out there in social media. That's the plus of it, is that you can find supportive peer groups, etc., and the like. Again, I urge friends, if you are a friend of someone who is LGBT and who's not out but and might be suffering, that weekly text, that weekly phone call, hey, how are you? Reaching out and being intentional about it. So you never know how it's landing, but it may be landing at just the right moment when that person needs it. So to be that person for them. But I haven't seen the studies yet. I think it's just,
nothing bad gets better under COVID, I don't think.
Right.
But the other thing I wanted to talk about is another thing I have seen with my friends who are estranged or in difficult relationships with their parents because of how they identify. A lot of times that can subject them to further abuse. I've seen people who have friends who are not real friends. There are people who come and say, I accept you or whatever, and then they abuse the hell out of them. And then, it's like any other abusive relationship. Well, you're just, this, or I treated somebody when I worked in a psychiatric hospital because I'm just a miserable old queer, because that's what he'd been told, and he accepted that about himself. So I see some abuse with people who, identify this way. I see some people saying, you don't have parents, you don't have good friends. I'm going to come in and I'm going to look like your savior. It's kind of like the abusers of anybody.
It's
had
a
rougher time in life, whether it's, fleeing incest or drugs or whatever it is that makes people vulnerable. I hate that. And when I see somebody exploiting that, especially in this way. I don't like to see anybody exploited, but especially in this way, I just go, God bless America. This person already feels like they don't have a family, and then these people they love hurt them. So if you see somebody getting abused, I have the backbone to insert yourself in that and stand up for them. If you can, at least gently redirect them and let them see that that's not real friendship and that's not real love. I hate seeing those sorts of things. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Just be your brother's keeper. Love people. If you see people being mistreated, do something about it. So let's close today, Cheryl, with you telling us some resources. I'm going to share the ones I know, which were, I was on the board of 211 Big Ben.
Big Ben.
Counseling service, any phone, anytime. Call them. They are professionals. This is not a note-taking service. These are pros. They're counselors. I don't care what it is you're struggling with. Sometimes you just need somebody to just talk you through it, get you over the hump. But they also have access to every resource out there. They can put you in touch with people. So don't ever forget, 211 free call from anywhere. Cheryl, what do you suggest?
And we are lucky in this community to have that organization. It does the work that they do. The Trevor Project is the one that is nationally known for crisis intervention.
The what
Trevor,
project?
TREVOR, Trevor Project.
Trevor.
There was a short film called Trevor about how do we help kids, about a child coming out and not having anywhere to go. And so they have tremendous resources about that, mental health, crisis counseling, all kinds of things to help in that way. In terms of advocacy work and other resource information, GLAAD, GLAAD, which is a national youth advocacy, or not youth, national advocacy group. They have they even have a Southern Stories project that they are working on, lifting up stories to affirm and amplify LGBTQ people in the South.
Yeah, that's a very special segment.
A very special thing. And they have a particular project dedicated to that. So yeah. I refer you to look for that. The Human Rights Campaign is, again, a national. So all of these groups have really robust resources, education, training, etc. I mentioned PFLAG. I mentioned Equality Florida. And the Matthew Shepard Foundation is also, which is the story of the gay college student who was tortured and murdered in Wyoming. That really was the genesis for the federal hate crime law we actually got, that was actually passed and signed by President Obama. So those are good. And then for the lawyers and the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center, both have LGBTQ projects and rights and work on those kinds of issues. And so from a legal perspective, that's another, global sense or a larger sense, that's a way to go. Many of these organizations have some local affiliates in some way, shape, or form, or are connected in some way. So I start at there, and then depending on the issue and you're trying to find out, go there. But there's all kinds of things about, especially for parents, there's stuff, you can find the information to answer the questions you're having. They're out there. There's lots of educational resources written in English and helping you to understand what your child may be facing. And so I commend them to, I know people in all these organizations. I don't know anybody at Matthew Shepard, but I know other people and I'm affiliated with all of them, and they do good work.
That's so great of you to share. And you just mentioned another thing, you talk about English speaking, and what about it whenever it's a cultural thing?
Yep.
We talked about religion, we talked about Southern, what about, Hispanic culture? I mean, there's just so many overlays over anybody who wants to be and exist in a way that might make other people uncomfortable. I think we just need to get to a point of awareness of it's not anybody else's job to make us comfortable with them.
Right.
We
have to do the work.
We do us, they do them. It's all good. Calm down. Thank you, Cheryl Stuart, for taking the time. You're a busy lawyer. You're an advocate. You're a mother. You're experiencing COVID like the rest of us, trying to juggle your time. And you didn't have to be here, but you decided to be, and I appreciate you for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for raising up the issue. It's wonderful. Appreciate it.
I love it. We want to bring more awareness to it. We want to get everybody talking about it, get resources to them. We want to make the world better and happier.
Absolutely.
Kinder. So thank you, Kimmy Hogan, for making time again today.
Thanks, Cheryl.
With everything you've got going on with those very empowered young men you are raising. So thank you for doing your part in making the world a better place. Thank you, Rose Caswick, again, for your invaluable contribution. And I think Maya, she nailed this one. I like it. I don't mind it.
Oh, you like that one? I'm drinking wine. Sorry.
Wine's fine. Wine's my go-to.
Except all liquors.
Yeah, but this time I did not need a backup wine. This one was fine, Rose. You nailed it. But thank you so much for your perspective always, from your generation, your mindset, just everything. Because you've always been somebody who just walks your path. You don't like it, don't need to hear about it. I love it. I love your fierce bravery. You inspire me every day. And thank you again to Whitney, Brandon, and Greg for making this all possible. So we will see you next week at 4:30 live on the EmPower Hour, brought to you by the EmPower Plant from Facing Brooks. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.